What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that likes cherry coke, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/tales from the customer. This story's called, "If I am on the sidewalk in front of this hospital, I'll call an ambulance to take me to another hospital. Let me tell you my tale of woe and amputation." Yes, literally. I moved last January with a company that packed and moved my boyfriend and me to a mobile home. Lousy company, but they were cheap. Yes, got what I paid for. Lost medication, kitchen stuff in the backyard, garage stuff in the kitchen. Yes, both were a bunch of marked boxes, ironically. The only marked boxes, etc. Not a great move, but whatever, we managed to get moved. And because of this move, a wound on the sole of one of my feet became infected. I was walking on the foot more than usual. I had a home health nurse as well as a wound care doctor, both monitoring me closely. But despite their best efforts, the infection bloomed and became out of control. So the home health nurse gave up and took me to the nearest local hospital. There were several choices, but this one was the closest on his way home. So he took me there rather than the other hospitals that I'd been to. I understood they were much further and he was doing me a favor. Now, I'd been to numerous hospitals and knew the basic check-in procedures, and this hospital didn't follow the same procedures that I was used to. But my boyfriend asked me to stay because he really wanted me to continue with the IV antibiotics that I was almost immediately placed on. I didn't realize that I could have been transferred by ambulance to a different hospital if I had insisted. I learned that later, much later. Too late, unfortunately. So I'm in a room on the first floor, apparently a locked ward. Never been in a locked ward except for two unfortunate circumstances where I had made a bad decision, from what my boyfriend told me upon his first visit. Weird, but okay. He figured it was closer to the surgery sections. In my past experience, hospitals would place people on different wards due to different prognosis, not because a patient would be closer to the surgery centers. I mean, that's what those big elevators are there for transferring patients from one floor to another, right? But whatever, I knew it was possible I'd need surgery on my foot. They run a test on me. I think it was an MRI or X-ray. It was a mobile machine that scanned my foot and leg for signs of bone infections. Because I'd had 6, but 2 of them were at the same time, so I don't count them separately, bone infections, I knew that the normal course was to remove as much of the infection as was safe and let the IV meds do the rest of the job, if possible. So I was expected to see a surgeon, and he came to visit me the next day. He felt like I'd do better to just amputate either half the foot, or maybe even removing up to a below-the-knee amputation. I agreed, not knowing that there were other options that might save my foot. Once he left, I told my home health nurse about the upcoming surgery, and he was shocked. Because I responded well to the IV meds. He felt like I should be allowed to see if the meds themselves, and orders to stay off my foot for a while, might actually turn the tide. And I wouldn't need major surgery, just maybe a surgical debridement, which is to clean the wound and any other questionable section in the surgery center. Well, this sounded like a much better option, one which the surgeon never even broached. So I talked to the doctor that was assigned to me, and he agreed to hold off the surgery for a little while, give the IV meds the chance to do their job, and see how things look later on. And then the wound care team came in. They found signs of gangrene between 2 toes and took absolutely no other steps other than to loosely wrap my foot with fresh dressing. Now, knowing that gangrene requires surgery, I figured that the surgeon could do a surgical debridement and remove the gangrene as well as the surface infection. And if he found that the foot was not responding to the IV meds, he could let me know, and he and I, could discuss further options, up to and including amputation. But I wanted the debridement first, not the major surgery. Well, the next day or two, I apparently became very confused and ended up in the ICU. My boyfriend didn't know until he visited, and none of my family were notified either. Basically, I was wheeled into the ICU and might have ended up staying in there for an unknown amount of time if my boyfriend hadn't been visiting me a few times a week. I was in that hospital for about 2 weeks. I remember feeling slow before I was transferred, and I remembered feeling like everyone in the ICU was either a monster from Doom or one of the victims to be avoided at all cost. And I didn't trust anyone there. Didn't help that they kept the light off and I was apparently in the furthest room from everyone, unable to see anything but a small slice of the actual nurse's station. My boyfriend suspects that I might have been given pre-surgery anesthetics, although the hospital claimed that I was having breathing issues. I think they thought the breathing issues would explain away the slowness I felt. But they didn't realize that I breathe shallowly, which sometimes lowers my blood oxygen. It's completely normal for me and hasn't caused me any complications in or out of the hospitals. And I had a nurse that hated me. Right before I was transferred back to my room, I had asked her how often I could get a pain med, and she was looking right at my chart and information. She lied to me and told me I could get something every 6 hours. It ended up actually being every 4, which I thought was the right answer, but I had to ask the next nurse to get the actual truth. And it wasn't even like this nurse was going to have to give me a pain pill before her shift ended. No matter what, it would have had to be the next nurse. And there were some other things that this specific nurse did that I think were against the law. Like, my call button was behind me, well out of my reach, for almost the entire time I was in the ICU. And when I somehow became tangled up in my wires, she blamed me for getting tangled up and made fun of the fact. But enough about the ICU, except for one last thing. While I was there, still confused and not trusting anyone, one of the surgeon staff came and visited me and badgered me, telling me the surgeon would never touch my foot unless I agreed to them amputating my foot if needed. She made it sound like nobody would touch my foot, even to do basic wound care, unless I gave them carte blanche to basically do whatever they wanted to. Eventually, I got so tired and so confused, I agreed to it. Suddenly, less than 24 hours after that, I was released back into my room, signed a paper, couldn't read it because I'm legally blind in one eye and the other has a bad cataract, and saw the wound on the bottom of my foot. It actually looked so much better because of the IV meds and staying off of my foot. So I was reassured. They hadn't taken any further tests, except maybe blood tests, so I figured that the worst that could happen would be a couple of toes might disappear. I'd already lost one years ago and knew that I wouldn't have any problems walking without a couple more. Went under for the surgery and, well, I wouldn't have used the title I used if I was only missing a couple more toes. Woke up and looked at my foot, and I immediately saw a huge difference. I had lost all of my toes, as well as the ball of my foot, and basically a straight horizontal line from that point across my foot. Even wrapped as heavily as it was still obvious that they had done some serious carving, and there isn't a thing I can do about it. I ended up spending another 2 months in a long-term nursing facility, recovering from the surgery. Ironically, I could have easily lessened that time considerably, but the virus happened and it caused delays in seeing anyone outside of the facility. Took me almost 1.5 months to see the surgeon for a check, when I should have seen him after just 3 weeks. But I eventually did leave and I've started seeing what my options are with regards to reporting this hospital for Medicare abuse. The hospital was negligent and has a history, apparently, of doing unnecessary procedures on Medicare and Medicaid patients just to bill the insurance for more money. I will admit, I take part of the blame. I should have turned right around and gone to another hospital, based off the instincts that screamed at me during check-in. I don't really blame the surgeon that much. He did a good job as far as the actual amputation. It's clean, he removed all of the infected parts, and I have only a small remaining scar from a previous surgery, besides the scar from this one. But only half of the stitches are removed, and we are struggling to figure out who I can see to remove the rest. I can walk fine, although I still have to go slow with the stairs. I have 4 that lead up to my mobile home. I have no pain, but I think that's mostly due to nerve damage, which has been a long-term issue. And yes, I'm a diabetic. Type 2, although for some reason, my body reacts more like I'm a type 1. I struggle with controlling my sugars, but I know that it's possible. But ultimately, I will never go into this hospital again. Apparently, they claimed that I was bipolar. My long-term therapist was shocked. which I think was more because I made their lives absolutely miserable both before and after the surgery. I mean, I argued with them repeatedly, telling them I wanted them to do the surgical debridement, no amputation before giving me more information, and gave them hell afterwards, telling them that they never did any testing to prove that it was needed. Oh, and would you ever go to a hospital that couldn't afford to replace the batteries in the paper towel dispenser? One of their IT guys told me how he had to break the one that he used just so that everyone, visitors, patients, and staff, could get paper towels easily. I shudder to think about how the surgery center is treated when the hospital doesn't properly supply the visitor areas. So yes, unless it's a life and death situation, I will get an ambulance to take me anywhere other than this hospital. And if it's life and death, I'll be arranging a ride to another hospital as soon as I'm stable enough. So please, if you ever walk into a hospital and get a bad feeling, if you have any options, listen to your feelings. Don't let someone badger you into a decision you'd never make willingly. Make a medical power of attorney. There's free forms all over the internet, and make sure you leave copies with family and friends as well as your doctor. And make sure that someone, a neighbor, a third party, a coworker, family member, someone visit you a few times a week to make sure you don't end up in the hole. ICU. Terrible. When you're in the hospital, the only thing you should worry about is just getting better and resting and stuff like that. Oh man, it's a sad day when you can't trust your medical professionals. However, OP seems to have adjusted well enough to their 1.5-foot life. And hey, if it's any consolation, you are much more likely to get a bionic foot now, and that is actually really cool. And I'm not even joking. Like those super cheap bionic arm things that are also really, really cool, are so cool. And I cannot wait for like 5 years from now when like it's even more cool. And then you'll have Iron Man Repulsor Blast in your hands. Me personally, I'd get like the loop hook and a hidden blade from like Assassin's Creed Revelations, because if you never played that game, they added a loop hook that made like climbing upwards so much quicker, and it extends your reach and like opens up so many more traversal options. Revelations is underrated, first of all. That is such a good game. I'm talking about video games when this woman got her foot amputated. I'm sorry. Bionic foot, go! Alright, this story's called I Was the Annoying Customer. So for a little background, I've worked in restaurants my entire life, so I know an annoying customer when I see one. These people aren't bad customers, they're not Karens, they just want a lot. They're special and they know it, and they give me extra work. One day I was meeting a friend at a restaurant that I had never been to, but for reasons, she had to take off before I got there and couldn't communicate that to me. She was a no-show, so I sat down at the counter and ordered to go. First annoying thing I did was ask for a glass of ice for the can of soda that I had brought in. I asked if it was okay first, and the place was also like a corner store, so this was at least a little okay, but that was my first strike. I zero in on the lunch menu, and because I just wanted something quick, I ordered a grilled ham and Swiss with tomato, mayo, and mustard only. The waitress then told me that they don't do lunch on the weekends because there is no demand for it, breakfast only. I was more than a little disappointed. I was already imagining that delicious combination in my mouth. I asked her if they can make me a ham and Swiss breakfast sandwich instead, add tomato on sourdough. The waitress asked me if I wanted egg, and when I said no, I realized that I had just ordered the exact same thing as before, but just added the word breakfast to it. I started to feel like a butthole. I self-consciously sipped at my illicit drink, thinking about how much my waitress and cook hate me right now. The order took what seemed like forever. I paid, left a $5 tip on a $10 sandwich, got my food, which did take forever, but I wasn't about to complain. I just ordered a sandwich that was totally off menu and tricked them into it, no less. The waitress mentions that the mustard is in the bag because they didn't have it available in the kitchen at breakfast, and I dip. When I got to my car, the smell coming from the bag was too much to handle and I was starving. So I busted it open, opened the sandwich to add the mustard, and to my surprise, sitting in front of me was an absolute wonder to behold. The cook had lovingly caramelized the ham in my sandwich and expertly seared the tomatoes, a step that was totally unnecessary. And I'm sure they don't normally do it, but little did he know, seared tomatoes are in the top 3 on my list of favorite foods. I was totally blown away at the care that went into the sandwich, all while I was imagining their annoyance at me. I'm not gonna lie, the sight of me eating that sandwich was ugly, very ugly. And I was glad that I got it to go because the other patrons would have been offended by the manner in which I shoved that sandwich into my gullet. It was the best ham and Swiss on sourdough that I've ever had in my life. I was a little sad because I didn't get the chance to personally thank the cook, but I left a really good review of the place. First of all, let me just say I'm pretty sure all restaurant peeps out there appreciate your thoughtfulness when you're ordering stuff like that. I mean, you tipped 50%, I'm sure all was forgiven. And honestly, there's a way to go about ordering stuff like that without making yourself feel like a jerk. Here's how it should have went. Hey, I'd like to order that sandwich. Sorry, we don't do lunch on the weekends because there's no demand for it, breakfast only. Oh, crap. Okay. So then, can I get a ham and Swiss breakfast sandwich, add tomato on sourdough, and, without eggs? And that's when you throw in a smile and a little wink and a chuckle. Oh my gosh, you know what? That's basically the same sandwich, and we don't do lunch, but, that was so charming and funny, and so, we will do it without any trouble, and we'll make it extra special for you because that was amazing, and I appreciate your awesomeness as a customer, and you're so fun. And that's exactly how it will go if you just, throw in some charm. Try it next time. Pro tip, I'm telling you. Alrighty, this story's called Delivery Driver Didn't Call, Text, Email, or Ring the Doorbell. How was I supposed to know my food came? It was the weirdest thing. Tonight, I ordered a 6-pack of cookies from one of the places that specializes in that sort of thing, and on checkout, I selected both text me updates about my order and email me updates about my order because I wanted to consume those warm, chocolatey saucers of heaven the moment they hit my doorstep. I was not going to miss a notification. My boyfriend and I were playing some video games, so time was passing quickly. And after an hour and a half, he says, "Hey, shouldn't your cookies be here by now?" So I check my phone, and I haven't gotten a notification of any kind. No email, no text, no missed calls, and we knew the doorbell hadn't rung, just in case I go to the cookie website and track my order, only to find that they'd been delivered. We went downstairs, and there they were, on the porch, cold and rock hard. If you've ever ordered cookies before, you'll understand that that was very disappointing because the warm gooiness is the best part. It was just so bizarre. They can't expect you to sit there and refresh the page or watch the door till the order delivers, right? To answer your question, no. What the heck? If I'm paying a ridiculous amount of money for the delivery, which you do pay a ridiculous amount of money for the delivery, I said livery. Anyways, with the amount you pay extra, they should freaking just oh, here's your food, my good sir, may I shine your shoes? And obviously you decline because that's just not classy. And then you'd be like, hey man, I appreciate your good service. This is quality stuff that I'm paying for, and here's a good tip. And you gotta tip the drivers well. Come on, you always gotta tip the drivers well. But then there's the understanding that you're supposed to get good service. You gotta freaking, I am currently 0.4 miles away from your house, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1. I am literally outside your door. I am putting your cookies down right now. Freaking second by second updates, man. I'm kidding, just let me know when my food's here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.